Little update today, and this is an update on the country boots from Urban Shepherd. So I've been wearing these about a month. They're broken in. Can wear these all day with no discomfort. I've got this sort of the cork footbeds shaped to my feet. The toe boxes are broken in, certainly on the width. So these are sort of well on the way to becoming sort of comfortable, familiar friends now. And I thought, it's useful just to share some initial thoughts. Obviously, I've done an initial unboxing, but a bit of reflection on sizing and the break-in experience, and just some observations about the boots in general. So the main thing that you really need to know is about the sizing on these. I've gone for what I'd call a true to size, so I'm a UK 8, a Euro 42, and this is exactly what I picked up. Now, these run small. I've seen other reviews say that they run small, and I can certainly agree with that. I've made these work, but probably I'm not a sort of a large 8, if you know what I mean. So, I had a little bit of flexibility. If you're anywhere between sizes, I'd definitely be thinking about sizing up. I think I would have liked to have sized up, but they've broken in fine with a little bit of work. One thing to point out is Urban Shepherd have now added a sizing chart on their web pages, which is really, really helpful. And that will help you buy a little bit more confidence when buying online. So if I used the sizing chart, if I wore thick socks when measuring my feet, if I added 5 or 7 millimeters to that measurement, which is normally what people recommend, I think I would have come out at a 43, so that's a UK 9. So sizing up a full size is definitely something to consider. So that's one thing to take away from this. The saving grace on these is the toe box is pretty boxy, nice and wide. It doesn't taper in too quickly on the sides there, which means that if your foot's sort of presented a little bit further down than it normally would be, you've got a little bit more width on the sides there. Almost impossible to break in a boot if your toes are fighting against that curve in, but the saving grace on these is generous up the front there. So I did make these work. They are fitting fine, but I think my life would have been a little bit easier, a little bit more comfortable if I'd gone for the size ups of the UK 9. In terms of breaking in general, really not too bad. One of the really nice things about these is that you don't experience the slop in the sort of heel as you break in the tongue, so you don't have a bellows tongue, which makes breaking a little bit easier. And on the inside, we'll come in from some close-ups in a minute, but there's a nice sort of suede heel counter on the inside, which really is comfortable. I think a lot of brands should take on that sort of design. But yeah, no rubbing on the back of the heel there. On the front of the foot, a little bit of initial pinch on the side. So starting off with some good quality sort of thin socks, wearing around the houses just to get the leather to yield on the sides. Now, in terms of socks, at the beginning of the year, massive convert to Darn Tough, which has been absolutely great. So I use Darn Tough, so a combination of thin and thick socks to break boots in. Now, I've just started to experiment with some socks from Bridgedale, which are a UK brand. Same sort of style as Darn Tough. It's got a good merino wool mix, so these are going to be my break-in socks for the foreseeable. I've got a thin pair and a thick pair there, so maybe I'll report back on Bridgedale another day, but trying those out now. So quality socks, breaking in the on the width, not too bad at all. One thing I did note is that this leather is quite sort of tough, and when we come in with some close-ups, I'll tell you a bit about the leather, but there was a sort of a little ridge that formed in the crease there, a little bit pinchy on top of the toes, but again, something to work through on the break-in really. So other things to note about the break-in: initially when I tried these on, I thought the leather sole was quite stiff. So this is got the Vibram half soles and a traditional leather construction there. It broke in really quickly. Actually, they're really quite nicely flexible. There wasn't really any issues around flexibility. It was all around just that slightly tight toe box because I could have sized up. But ultimately, they've broken in really nicely and now comfortable all day long. So before we just dive in for a few close-ups, Just one thing to note, no care on these at all, so just a little bit of brushing to take any dust and dirt out of the welt, but really I've not had to treat these in any way. The only thing I have done is I've put a bit of good quality clear boot polish onto the burnished edges here, because they were just so nicely finished. I didn't want this to suffer in the wet weather, but yeah, really, really nice. The leather's sort of slightly darkening now, so just there on the heel cap you can see a little bit of darkening, and yeah, very, very impressed. I think, you know, the takeaway from this for me is that these boots punch well above their weight. You know, these are 145 euros. You know, there is nothing that I've experienced which gives these a run for their money. They're just exceptionally good value. Okay, well, let's come in and take a look at some of the details. Coming in for a few close-ups here, one of the first things to point out is this leather. It really had me wondering in terms of what this leather actually was, whether it was a sort of waxed rough-out leather or what it was. So I did contact Urban Shepherd, and apparently this leather is a waxed split leather. So how that works is that on certain cuts of the cow's hide, certainly on the rear portion, the butt, you know, the leather may be sort of 10 millimeters in thickness, so they split it. The grain side is used for other purposes, and this is the flesh side, so the lower levels of the leather. And so it is it is a rough out leather. It's sort of got a suede finish, but the actual flesh side is on the other side of what you see here. At the tannery, it is waxed twice, and then after construction, it's waxed 2 times further. So it is a very, very waxy leather. One thing that's quite clear from what I've seen online of other people's boots is it does darken. You can see it's starting to darken there where there's been a bit of rough or rubbing from sort of trousers and stuff. Around the toes maybe a little bit darkening, but I think it will pick up quite a nice character over time. It doesn't seem to need much care. I've not had to treat it in any way. It's been plenty waterproof. The only thing that I've done, as I said earlier, is that this lovely burnished edge here, which I didn't mention in the first review, but really, really nice finishing on the leatherwork on the sides there. Really, really good. So I've done a little bit of a clear boot polish just to sort of preserve that, because it did look so attractive. So moving on to the sole. This Vibram half sole, very much the first time I've had a Vibram half sole. Always wanted to try it. So on the Beckmans, the Red Wing Beckmans, I always wanted to give that a try out. Very, very hard wearing. You know, these have done plenty of miles now. I've broken them in, I've put them through the paces, and it's really wearing very well. Obviously, the constructional stitches around the edge there, you know, there's nothing that's going to happen apart from them wearing off. That's not a problem at all. The sort of nails on the front there have been just knocked in a little bit and stopped sort of clipping the pavement. But yeah, the sole's really holding up very well, very nicely put together. No issues there. Moving up the boot, I guess one thing to say is that, you know, there's a few things that Urban Shepherd could do better. Very superficial stuff really, but one of the things is these laces really are pretty terrible, like the anklets about to come off on a couple of the ends, and I think I'll be looking at a lace upgrade on these. I think it's fairly typical, you know, laces always seem to be an afterthought, and having searched around the internet, I'll be taking some cues from a Instagrammer, Well Dressed Dad, and on his blog, his name's Nick, on his blog he's sort of shown a little bit of a how-to guide on upgrading your laces to paracord, so I'll be giving that a go, and I think that might be a nice solution actually. So that's really just one of the only things I've got any criticism about. You know, it's a very nicely built boot. It's got its own look. There's certain design cues which are sort of familiar to other brands, but yeah, they've done a fantastic job. So on the inside, just with this boot here, I've taken the laces out. You've got the single density foam insole in there, plenty comfortable. Below that you've got a cork, or you've got a leather footbed, but then you've got the traditional cork beyond that. The heel counter there, which I'm not sure if you can pick out, but that's actually a sort of a suede sort of rough out, which is absolutely great. Just holds your heel in there nicely. The tongue isn't bellows, so you don't need to work too hard on the tongue. In fact, you can see on the tongue how this leather darkens with a bit of wear. But yeah, leather lining, nicely breathable, so the feet aren't getting too hot in there. But yeah, a nicely put together pair of boots for the price. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of this review. If you haven't checked out Urban Shepherd, do check out their web pages. Exceptional value for money. You know, these really are, in my opinion, some of the best value boots I've experienced on this channel. In fact, there's no doubt in my mind that they are the best value boots I've had on the channel. So, for the price point, I think they're exceptional. There's a few things that they could improve, but very, very minor things, and really something that you should consider if you're starting out your journey into quality footwear. The sizing chart that they've added to their web pages, I think, will really help you buy with some confidence, because it is a little bit difficult when you're dealing with boots which don't really size that in a standard way. And Red Wings, you can try them on everywhere, but these you are solely buying them online. So really, really impressed. So if you haven't seen my channel before, please check it out. Lots and lots of reviews of quality footwear, Red Wings, Thorogood, all sorts of different stuff on there. Please check it out. Also a bit of everyday carry, fountain pens, pen knives, that sort of stuff. Bit of cycling, bit of running, bit of guitar. Do check it out. We might share some other common interests. If you thought this video was useful, please give it a thumbs up. Of course, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video. Okay? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.